To the podcast. We back, episode 39. What's up, people? How we doing? It's your boy International Walk back, and
your girl Tosh, the co-hostess with the mostest.
We are back, episode 39. Hope y'all doing good out there. Hope everybody healthy. Hope everybody's safe. We appreciate the likes. We appreciate the comments. We got the website coming soon. Y'all gonna be able to tie all that in and go all to the website. We just appreciate y'all. So keep liking, keep commenting, keep sharing, and subscribe a day, all that. Do all that. Let's get to it. How are you?
Yeah, I've been better.
Where we at? No, how are you? Forgot the second part. So how are you? No, how are you?
I've been better. Your eyes a little blurry.
I looked into the light.
They don't suck. I looked into the light. Yeah, I'm grateful, but I've been better.
Mental. Hold on, I gotta get the clicker.
The clicker.
Yeah.
Dr. D's and Dr. Walt in the building.
Mental. What's the breakdown?
Mental, I'ma say I'm about a 6.
A 6.
Yeah.
Damn. Elaborate. 6. That's the drop from last week where you was a 9.
Yeah.
That's
Haven't
3
felt
points.
a 6 in a while, but I'm feeling a 6, just a lot of emotions, things between us, things on my mind about work, a little bit of the baby blues. I don't really want to elaborate because I don't want to cry, but I probably was feeling like a 4 or 5 yesterday. So 6 is better than yesterday, and I know it'll get better.
Work.
Work isn't bad. Like I said, it's been a lot of stuff on my mind. Not that it's bad. So work, I'm going to say is probably an 8.
An 8. That's 2 points up from the mental.
Yeah.
Is it overwhelming? Stressed out?
No. Just trying.
So what makes the load on the mental drop 2 points?
Again,
Is it just the relationship stuff?
not just. It's
what you just said.
Yeah, so it's a combination. Work isn't the biggest pieces of the pie. And work isn't necessarily, like I said, work is an 8. There's just been some things that I've been thinking about, trying to make some decisions. I'm one of those people, your thinking is different. That old school mentality, you find a job, a good job, you stay there for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and you rock out. Nothing wrong with that. My mind is a little more progressive in thinking when it comes to the corporate world. Not that I'm always looking for the next thing, but I like to grow and feel that when I feel like I've done all that I can in a certain space or learned all that I can, I like to, see what else I can contribute and what else I can learn. So as opportunities present themselves, it's just some decisions to be made, and so that's what it is. That's what I said. It's on my mind, but it's not like on my mind in a bad way. It's just something that has been, a little heavily on my mind. The other mental stuff, again, primarily us, and the baby blues been kind of heavy on me, and it waxes and wanes. At some times, I'm really good in that area, where I'm able to compartmentalize and push it to the back of my mind, and then other times it weighs a little more heavier.
What happened to your tools?
Yeah, using my tools and stuff, and
you don't nod your head with like so little enthusiasm about like the confidence in them.
No. No.
Just like, yeah, like.
No, I have 100%.
Like going through the motions.
I have 100% confidence in the tools, and I know that they work. I know that they work. I think I've just been feeling different than I've ever felt before, and it's just I've been feeling different than I felt before. So not to say my tools won't work in this realm, but it's just something that I haven't dealt with before as it relates to baby blues. And I just kind of that just different. Just different.
In a bad way, or?
Yeah, I mean, kind of in a bad way, but I don't even want to say a bad way, just in a more reality way. Just kind of feeling different, you know, just kind of, I guess, the reality of life and age and all those kind of things hit you, and just feeling different.
Finance.
Finance is good. I'm
sorry to hear that you feel like that.
Yep, finance is, I would say finance is probably a 10. I have no complaints about finance.
They went up from last week.
Finance went up?
Yeah, it was a 9 last week.
I mean, but our finance...
Oh, no. It was a 10.
I said finance is 10? Yeah. And that's because I have nothing to complain about, you know, about finances, and I'm forever grateful. And I pray that God continues to bless us, not just for ourselves, but so that we can be a blessing to others. And I'm having this itchy nose thing again. I don't know what goes on. Like, I don't know if this is allergies or what, but my nose feels like it's bugs and stuff in it or around it. But yeah, so finance, I'm going to say a 10.
Okay.
How are you?
No.
How are you?
You don't have to do that thing. I'm good. Mental, I would say probably a 7.
Okay. That's low for you, but okay.
Yeah, I usually operate on a higher volume, but yeah, I would just say a 7. Again, being transparent, just shit between us not being where I needed to be. Yeah, it fucks with my chi. Heavy.
I didn't know you had a chi.
I do have a chi. Work's a 9. So I'm a 7 in mental.
Yeah, I know work has been good for you because you been spending some lunch time. You know, he comes home to sandwich.
Well, yeah, I mean,
on some days, we don't really have much interaction because I'm usually working. He's sandwiching, but you know, just knowing that he's home and that always feels good because I know he's safe when he's here. Not that like if you're at work something's happening, but it's just always good to hear your keys in the door. Now sometimes I hear them a couple times a day.
Yeah, work's a 9, work's good, everything's good.
How's your finances?
Finances, I'm still on a 10 because, you know, got positive thinking and ain't nothing wrong. So count those blessings while they're here and ain't nothing wrong because when shit do go wrong, you know, you got to remember that shit wasn't wrong for a long time. So,
and then when it's wrong, is it really wrong or, yeah?
No, not really wrong, but... You know,
no, but I'm just saying, if when something happens, you do have to kind of put things in perspective, like...
Just got to readjust or recalibrate, but not really wrong. It's just a new challenge.
Yeah.
Wows and woes. What's the wows this week?
The wow this week, you know, I had a chance to, I went on a little datey date with... you know, the other little man in my life.
Mason?
Yeah, you know, with our nieces and nephews.
Did he really enjoy it, or did he just want to climb steps? Like he didn't appreciate it the way you thought?
No, he didn't. Absolutely not.
I mean, the way he asked for it is what I'm saying.
Well, so...
How he kept constantly saying, like...
So this is the thing. He said he wanted, you know, with having a large family, our kids, from my sister, it's 5 of them. I think it's important to give them individual quality time because, you know, it's 5 of them. They always got to share their interests. So in giving them an individual date, I asked them what would they like to do, and then we do that. So he said he wanted to see the dinosaurs. Now, this is a lesson that I learned in hindsight. Not that I doubted it at all, but parents know their children best. And when I told my sister what the plan was, I was going to take him to the Academy of Natural Science, and he said he wanted to see the dinosaurs and he wanted burgers. I always ask them if any of their siblings, if they want any of them to come. Even though it's their date, they still have a choice. He said no. Uncle Mark could come if he wanted to, but if not, he only wanted it to be he and I. He didn't want to come, so it just ended up being the 2 of us. And when I told my sister the plan, she was like, he's probably not going to enjoy that. And I'm like, all right, so what? He wanted to see the dinosaurs, so I'm taking him to see the dinosaurs. I should have listened to his mother because we walked in and he's like, I'm like, look what's right. He's like, dinosaurs. 5 minutes later, we could have left and he would have been over it. Like, he saw, and
Such a
then,
short attention
but the
span, these
thing
kids.
is, I learned he thought dinosaurs were real. So
What do you mean they
no, he
were
thought
real?
no. Like, you know how you go to the zoo, you see an elephant, a lion,
Oh,
or
he thought
whatever's
he
at the
would be
zoo.
able to see a
He
real
wanted to
dinosaur.
see the dinosaurs like that, and he's like looking at him like, "What's this?" I'm like, "These are the bones." He's like, "Oh, where are they?" Then there was this huge set of stairs, so he's like, "I want to go up the steps." All right, once we see everything, went up the steps, seen some more stuff, then we go down. We go back down the steps. I want to go up the steps again. I could have took him to a staircase and let him run up and down the steps, and he would have had a ball.
Or to the gym, he could have, well, you can't go there, but
And
he would
then,
have been playing all over the machines.
yeah, well, he did ask to go to the playground. I was tired by that point, so there was no playground popping. We did stop at a fountain. There was a fountain across the street, and we took some pictures. And I realized him being a boy, he really just enjoyed being outside. I kind of let him run ahead of me, but not too far. That when we walked past a ramp or something, he like, "Oh, can I walk up there?" He just wanted to do boy stuff. So the museum was like, literally by the end, he was like this, literally pulling me out. So, but my wild was just having a good time, being with him, spending time with him. Just having that one-on-one time as he's growing and learning, and we talked about different animals and stuff. So that was good.
Woes?
The woe was, in addition to, so this is like a 2-for-1. My sister being a single mom, being a dance mom, she needed me to, she asked if I could assist with doing dance duties on Saturday. Single moms, especially single moms of multiple children who have their children involved in activities, y'all are really superheroes.
Shout out to all the single moms out there who do
Yes.
their thing and got multiple kids. Even single kid, it's hard.
Yeah.
Having multiple kids and having them in activities. It's one thing to have multiple kids and they don't do nothing. But when they do a lot of stuff, football, basketball, whatever, if you have boys, girls,
Dance,
tennis,
all that,
dance,
yeah,
like all
soccer.
that stuff, drama, whatever they do, that's an extracurricular activity. Or other than being on an iPad or a phone or watching TV all day.
Yeah.
It's dope. So
And no
shout out to all
shade.
y'all.
And no shade to the parents who their children may not be involved in extracurricular activities because it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap, and that's something that I thought about as a give back thing that I would like to do is, people will, do like scholarships and stuff like that for school, college, that kind of stuff. And I think that would be good to be able to help a family if their child want to do some extracurricular activity. So that might be something that we kind of think about on the back end. But oh my God, the day was so long, and I realized at the end of the day, I came home and was exhausted. So it wasn't necessarily a woe, like a bad thing that happened, but it was just like, shout out to y'all. Y'all are really super. And single dads. I know there's some single dads out here that I don't know any, but I'm sure there are some that are really doing their thing. Just being a single parent is difficult, but having a village is paramount. That whole "it takes a village to raise a child," that old adage has been circulating for centuries, but it's really true. Parents need it. So, if you have somebody in your family that you love, they may need some help from time to time. Especially as a single parent, it takes a village. So, yeah. What was your wow?
Wow, was just I made it another week. Yeah, just healthy, everything, kind of like status quo. So just happy that I made it another week healthy. Nothing wrong. I took care of some business this week that I had to take care of. That this was dragging along, and glad that that's over with. So yeah, just had some errands and some business to take care of, and I did all that stuff.
That's to feel accomplished.
A little bit. I felt like I was productive.
I was proud of you.
In a personal space.
That was good. Your woe?
Woe is always being transparent. Like when we don't operate on 100%, I'm fucked up. And, that's why my mental being at a 7 is what it is. And it is what it is. One day at a time.
Gotcha. What's up for this week? What you got?
Not to bring it down a notch, but take a deep dive into what's going on in Philly and the murders in Philadelphia and what's causing kids to shoot them up, OK Corral. Just be out in the streets the way that they are. As of October 2007, this evening, it's been 422 murders.
Mm.
422 murders. And the same day last year was 355. And the year before that, on the same day, October 7th, was 258. So, murders is up 18%. So a couple days ago, there was a man shot at Wawa, 25 years old, killed. Just the other day, a nursing assistant went into Jefferson's Hospital with body armor on and shot his co-worker.
6 times in the head.
He was armed with an AR-15. His name was Stacy Hayes, and he killed 43-year-old Ann Ray James, which is, condolences to that family, and that's just fucked up. But that made me think about the Nabisco murders a few years ago. Remember those? The Nabisco murders? Where Yvonne Hiller, she killed her co-workers because she thought that they sprayed toxic chemicals on her.
Deer piss and stuff
she thought,
like that.
Like they was making, all this fun at her and laughing at her. And she killed Tanya Wilson, 47, and LaTanya Brown, 36. But the kids, like the guns, that's the point. Like all the guns in Philly, all the murders in Philly. What's your thoughts? What the fuck you think is going on?
So condolences to the family of the gentleman who lost his life at Jefferson, and not to say.
First question. I mean, I know you're about to answer, but why do you think the murders have risen so drastically?
Yeah. So not to say that his murder isn't just as saddening as those in the streets, but I'm just going to speak differently about those happening in the streets. I think that it's a couple different factors. There is a lack of respect of life. And not just other people's lives, but their own in this generation. And I think part of it is a couple different factors. And this is just my Tasha-isms, what I believe. One, we've had teenage parents for years and years and years. But as generations have continued,
what do you mean for years and years and years?
It's not like young people having babies is not a new phenomenon. Like that's been going on for years.
I will push back on that and say that it's a new phenomenon when you use the word phenomenon. But young people have had kids when they were young. Like there's always been people who had kids at 14, but there has been a huge thing in our generation of young moms, like we haven't seen before. That is a thing.
Right. When you say our generation, we're 40. So now the people who were young moms for us are now grandmoms. So I'm not even talking about our generation. That's what I'm saying. It's been happening since our generation. Our parents' generation, we're having kids young. So what I'm saying though is I think as it has continued, there's been even more of a disconnect. And just go along with me. Back in our generation, when you had the young moms having babies, they were leaving with them with the grandmoms who were a little bit older. So they were instilling more into them some of that, older guidance.
Was that my generation? Because my generation was the generation who the moms was on drugs and dads was on drugs, and you was raised by your grandma. So you talking about the previous generation before me or my generation? Because a lot of the kids that's my age was raised by their grandparents.
I'm talking about our generation. We're only 3.5 years apart.
Right.
So I'm talking about, So our parents, a lot of our parents, when they were having us, even though it wasn't our situation, they were being raised. A lot of our peers were raised by their grandparents.
Right. Okay. I'm with you.
All right. And then when our generation was having kids, they weren't really so much leaving them with their parents because, again, that was the generation that had left them behind. So a lot of them were on drugs. But then as you continue the cycle and you close the gaps in the generations, now you have a mother who is 30, who had her child at 15, and now she's becoming a grandmother because now her child had a child at 15. Just hypothetically speaking. So now that generation of leaving the baby with the grandmom is only 30. So I say that to say we're losing that older generation of people responsible for, because now you got a 30-year-old trying to raise a 15-year-old and trying to help raise a newborn. Everybody's growing up together, we know it. And 30 is loosely, I mean, unfortunately you may have some grandparents or some people that are becoming grandparents even younger. So I think we're losing that older wisdom, because at 30, what wisdom do you have to impart to your grandchild? Just think about your nana, you know, however old she was, and the wisdom she was able to give to you as you got older. But now it's like the grandparents and the quote unquote older generations aren't even that old to really be able to impart wisdom to the younger generations to help them out, because they're still raising themselves.
I mean, I think that is true what you're saying, but I don't explain how that ties to the murders rising in the streets.
Right. So what I'm saying is, the children are losing the guidance.
Okay.
They're losing the respect for life, the respect for their own lives, and the respect for other people's lives, because
Okay.
in a lot of cases they're left to raise themselves. You got 30-year-olds still popping it in the club, and not to say anything, you know, to each his own. Some people might think that's too old, some people might think, you know, it isn't, but you still got 30-year-olds in the club. You got 15-year-olds
in
trying
this
to...
context, if you're 30 years old and you're raising a 15-year-old, there is something wrong with that, right? You shouldn't be in a club popping it like it's hot. Like,
I'm not talking about the fact of you being a parent. I'm just talking about the age.
Okay.
I'm just talking about the age, being 30, out in the streets, you know, hanging with your girls, having a good time.
But that's fine. Are we talking about the people with kids?
Right, but what I'm saying is, I'm just looking at the age of 30 years old. You're still out here trying to get your life when you have another life that you're responsible for, and that life has another life you're responsible for. So everybody ends up raising themselves for the most part.
I get that.
So
All
that's
I'm saying
why I'm
is something
saying
is wrong with that. Something is wrong with the 30-year-old who has the 15-year-old who has a baby, and he still feels like, I don't need to pay that much attention, or I still got to get to the club and drop it like it's hot.
I'm not saying that it's right. What I'm saying is, what I was saying some people might think is right or wrong is 30 years old being in a club. That's all I was speaking to. So yes, if you're 30, you should be focusing, at any age, you should be focusing on raising your child, hopefully so that your child doesn't become a young parent. But even if they do, because it's not always the parent's fault, even if they do, you can help raise or help, you know, plant some seeds of wisdom into the younger generation. But we have these generations left to raise themselves, or being raised and guided by their friends, where you got the blind leading the blind. And again, there's no respect of life, there's no foundation. You don't have people being raised, and this some people may not agree with. You don't have those morals and ethics being instilled in children, whether you were made to go to church, whether you were made to go to the mosque, whether you were made, you know, to if you to go to the Kingdom Hall, if your family was a Jehovah's Witness. We're losing those values and that foundation in children that's giving them that sense of, I don't want to take somebody else's life, or I don't want to risk my own life. They just out here doing whatever without even having that sense of respect. And again, not just respect for the next person, respect for themselves, and valuing their own life and not wanting to lose their own life.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. I think the murders directly are tied to, I mean, the shit rising is tied directly to, like, just young boys being out here. Because a lot of these murders, even though I was looking at the wanted people in Philadelphia, and it's a shitload of girls wanted for murder. A shitload of girls that's wanted for murder. Not even looking, but they was on 911 Philly on Instagram, and a shitload of girls is wanted for like homicides, and that just was shocking to me. But being out here and being from this environment, which I'm from, and I was there, so like, if you're out here, you're kind of, everybody's a product of their environment. So whether you have faith base at the house, because there's kids that have preachers for dads and moms, and they still murder. So having that faith base, I mean, it's good, and it's needed, and it is missed. It is being lost. But being out on the streets and being in an environment where there's murders and shit happening every day, you become scared. You become fearful, and it's a lot of like a kid out today will kill somebody because they can't check their ego or their pride is big or over a girl or over some money or over some drugs. So the fact that it's so easy to get guns and all that stuff is going on in the city right now, kids being a product of their environment, growing up in neighborhoods, not having shit, that's what I think the murders are tied directly to. But I'm just having a good foundation is good, but what do you say to the kids who had those preachers and for a mom and dad and had that good foundation and still murdered and still became the biggest drug dealers in the city? Like, that's good to have, but when you're out here and you're in the street and doing shit, like in certain situations, if you have 6 murders in your neighborhood in a month, that would make you out of fear want to carry a gun if you're a young teen in the street. So the first time you pick up a gun, it's not like I want to hurt somebody. It's I'm afraid of a person robbing me or shooting me, or I see these kids got their chain took or their sneakers took. Well, I got them same sneakers. My mom bought me the same sneakers, and not because I'm trying to keep up with the Jones, but because I'm a good kid. I do good in school, but these murders is happening around here, and what do I do to stay safe?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And so 2 things. Of course, you have people who had a great foundation, who had parents instill values in them, respect and love, and they still ended up choosing the wrong path. So I'm not saying that can't happen, but what I do believe that helps to decrease some of the instances of that happening. And then to your point, I don't think that your average child who, again, has a strong foundation at home and has been loved and has had morals and values and respect instilled in them. I'm just going to use our nephews for an example. And I know that there's that fine line of parenting where you want your children to fear you out of respect, not fear you because you going to like hurt them. But at the same time, you do want them to think, I'll get this gun, my dad is going to beat my behind. We have 3 nephews, all the same age, one a little bit older, where they would be, not to say it wouldn't cross their mind, not to say they wouldn't be tempted or there may not be some peer pressure, but to think it would, and not to say it would absolutely stop them. But if it crossed their mind, it's also going to cross their mind what the repercussions will be if they do this. Does that mean that they absolutely won't make the wrong decision? No, it's possible they could. But you have so many children who there aren't any repercussions. They don't have anybody. They don't have the fear or respect of anybody.
I knew where you were going with that, but it's not about the repercussions, because there is a different level of ego and pride, especially within boys when it comes to their peers, that their parents have shit to do with. So it doesn't matter. And I'm saying it from experience. And I knew my mom.
Well, I'm just talking about the situation that you mentioned of being afraid in the streets because of things going on, and you think to yourself, well, I'm going to get a gun. So take the friends and peer pressure out of it. I'm talking about that thought in your mind, like, I don't want nobody to get me. You might think for a second, man, I need to get me a piece. But real fast, our nephew's going to be like, man, if my mom finds this. And again, I'm not saying that means that they're absolutely not going to do it. But the thought will at least cross their mind. Does that mean they absolutely won't make the wrong decision? No.
I was ready to say, I had consequences in my mind. And I knew that if my mom found guns in the house, she would fuck me up, but I still did it. So I'm just saying that's there too. And I know you would like to think our nephews wouldn't. I would like to think so too, but I don't know, because it's a different kind of situation when you're with your friends. That all the boys, all the girls can be taught anything. When you're with your friends, the decision is different. Some kids stand up and be like, nope, this is not right. I'm wrong. I'm removing myself from this situation, and salute to you. But some kids fold under peer pressure more than the pressure of their parents. Why is it so easy to get guns?
I have to say,
And I know you're not a person who like got a gun before or carried a gun.
well,
But
no, but
why
that's
would?
the thing. I am a person. We have a legal firearm that we went to the store and legally purchased, and it was extremely easy. Like, and you got to think about this. We did that like within a half hour. Now, I don't have any criminal background. I guess they run your name through the system, nothing comes up. But you know how many people don't have a criminal background because they haven't been caught yet?
But there's more people, or I wouldn't say more. I don't know. I'm gonna do some research, but I would say there's a big group of people that can't go in a gun store and buy a gun like you did. So for the people who have guns in the city who didn't go in a gun store and buy them, and that leads to my next question, where it was like, why did Philly give out gun permits the last 2 years? Like, I'm 44 years old. I've never known it to be that easy in Philadelphia to get a gun permit. And we're talking about people with legal guns, let alone the people with illegal guns. That's basically what I'm asking. Why is it so easy to get legal guns? I mean illegal guns. Like,
to get illegal guns?
Yeah, like, I mean,
because
just
it's
watching
so
a
easy to
podcast.
get legal guns. That's the thing. I think you just answered
Just
it.
watching a podcast the other day, and Meek Mill was on there, and he was talking about a guy FaceTimed him from in Philadelphia, in South Philly, and these 4 kids had Glocks on them with 32-inch clips. 13 years old, 4 kids on FaceTime. So and these are brand new $1,500 guns.
But
and
see,
it's
you
like 4
answered the
kids
question.
with these kind of guns. How did they get their hands on them? And like, why are they just walking around 13 years old with these? And he asked them on the FaceTime, who y'all beefing with? And you know what they said? Nobody. Nothing. He was like, what's going on? Nothing. Like, so it's like you have this shit in your hand. You want to see how it works. You're not beefing with nobody, but so you're going to do something. Like, how is it, if it's easy for a 13-year-old to have a brand new gun in his hand like that, that's worth $1,500, 4 of them, why is that so easy? You think those are legal guns?
Yeah, well, no, the thing, they were bought I believe initially they were bought legally. They're so easy to get illegal guns because it's so easy to get legal guns.
So you think all the guns on the street that are illegal were once legal?
I think at some point.
Were bought legally?
I of course I won't say all, but I think initially it started out as probably a legal gun. Whether you have a person going and buying them and doing straw sales, meaning they're selling them illegally to other people. Whether you have people going to the gun shows, which we know it's extremely easy to get there, and then they're selling them. Or you have people robbing people and stealing them from their houses, where it may have been legal in a person's house, and now they're, now it's stolen, so now it's in the streets. So I think at some point, the gun laws have to change.
But that contradicts your point, though, right? Because it's only legal if the gun person has it.
So, no, what I'm saying, it started as a legal weapon and ended up in the streets illegally. Either it was stolen, it was sold some kind of way. Now, I don't know if it's illegal. It is illegal. If I buy a gun legally, I can't sell it to another person.
Yes, you can.
I can?
Yeah, with the proper paperwork and ID, you can.
Okay, so I think that's what part of the problem is.
You can't go to the gun store and buy a gun and give it to me like I'm your boyfriend and that's a straw purchase. That's 15 years minimum.
Yeah. Okay. So in that case, I think it's so easy to get illegal guns because it's so easy to get legal guns. It's so easy to buy guns. And I mean, no, granted, I know there's people that come from out of state to sell guns.
I was going to say, because when we were young, we didn't buy guns off people that had legal guns. We bought guns off of a guy, a Chinese man or a white man pulled up in a car and popped the trunk and had guns in the trunk.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You don't think that white man or Chinese man bought those guns legally from someplace?
No, because all those guns had serial numbers scratched off, and I can't say all these guns were legal.
Some of them was worn.
All of them wasn't brand new. So it was, I don't know. I can't say that this shotgun we bought that's sawed off, which is illegal, and the wood on the handle looked like somebody been holding it for years. Like, I can't say that I know that was, I don't know.
So what do you think, the government is pumping them in?
I don't know. There was stories about a freight train in LA years ago, back in the 80s, that used to come through stocked with guns and stop and sit there for days until the guns were gone, and then it would pull off. I don't know if it's
I
real.
wouldn't doubt it.
I've never been out there to witness nothing like that. But that was a myth that some freight train goes through L.A. and it stops and it sits there for 5-6 days, and these guys uncrate guns and steal guns, and then it goes away.
I mean, I think you would only do that once or twice before people would like catch on. But that's enough to pump the city with it. And then those guns aren't going to stay in the city. They're going to trickle out, other places. So I wouldn't put it past if the government can blatantly lie in our face and say that the people on the TV show had COVID and they didn't, just to stop them from interviewing the vice president, then they can do anything. So I don't put it past
that kind of myth of a train coming through a city that's bad and is predominantly black to drop guns off makes me think about when the riots and the marches was happening, and all of a sudden a pallet of bricks is out there. That kind of shit's like, who did that? So if maybe the government did, but who the fuck came through at night and put bricks out so bad shit could happen?
I don't put anything past the government. And to be honest, I mean, maybe you got to think about this too. I thought about this the other day, right? Because one of the things that bothers me when people is like, everybody always says, oh, I got to get out of Philly because Philly's too violent. And it's violence everywhere. Yes, there's violence, there's crime everywhere. But you can't say that leaving the city is not going to possibly better your life or improve your chances of not being a victim of a crime. So when people want to preach that it's crime everywhere, you can use that to make yourself feel well about staying in the hood. And not,
I was wondering I was misunderstanding where you was going with that. I thought you were saying moving out the hood doesn't lower your chances of being murdered.
Saying it does.
I'm about to say it does.
Right. So when people say like, oh, it's violence everywhere, everybody always talking about they move out the city, it's violence everywhere. No, like I think I read the crime statistics in our township. I think in the last 13 years there was 2 people murdered. I think
and
in 13 years.
Was a doctor around the corner.
Yeah, like in 13 years. So it absolutely decreases your chances of moving out the hood. But, I say that to say this. Part of me also believes that the government, whether it's at a higher federal level, state level, city level, whatever, allows these things to happen, these crime booms to happen. We know gentrification is already happening, but this will sort of like really expedite the gentrification or clearing out neighborhoods. Not to say, oh, they're going to kill everybody off. Of course, that's not going to happen. But when you have so much crime happening, then property value drops. Investors can buy up those properties and sit on them and then eventually do something different with it. That's why you see these apartments and condos and warehouses popping up all over the city. So I think there's a method to the madness that we haven't quite figured all the way out. And again, this is just my Tasha-isms, because I literally was thinking about this the other day. And we didn't even talk about this, but I was thinking in my mind, like, it's a plan to this. Like, let, all these shootings happen. Nobody's going to want to live there. People are going to be, and not to say, black people in the hood don't own their homes, but we know home ownership is not the majority. So the people who do own it, they're going to be wanting to sell their properties. Then if you have a landlord who sells to somebody else and that person doesn't want you to be a tenant anymore, then guess what? They're going to be clearing out these properties. So I think it's a method to the madness.
I think some of these neighborhoods, the Badlands and a few other neighborhoods.
Look what happened to the Badlands.
Hold on though. I'm just saying, I don't think that it'll work there. Like, I think some neighborhoods, and I'm not speaking bad. Well, I mean, it's negative, but I'm not trying to down anybody that lives in the Badlands. I'm just saying some neighborhoods went too far and they're going too far, where it's like some areas people just not going to want to live there. Like it's just, they're not going to eradicate people out their neighborhood, out their houses that easy for them to just, like, there's always going to be, they're not going to take all the black people and all the crime out the neighborhood. So you can put these white people there, but it's not like they're going to say, okay, we're going to stay and live here on 7th and Luzerne or 8th and Butler or these notorious drug corners. Like, you're not going to put apartments there. Like, even down Girard Avenue, certain places you walk around, you're in the hood again. Like this block and these 4 blocks is clean, but if you come out for a jog and jog left instead of right, you're in a fucked up neighborhood, just like that. So I'm just saying they gentrify spot locations. And another thing I want to say is, crime is about proximity. Like if you close to people. So just to your point, moving out the hood does lower your chances of being murdered a lot, because you're not in the proximity of all this crime going on, of all these robberies going on all day, or all these shootings going on all day. If you have the resources to move to an area that has less crime and less murders and less robberies, then you're less likely to be knocked over your head when you go outside, or to be your house to be robbed when you're bringing in a TV or something. So to your point, you're absolutely right with that.
And I hear what you're saying, and of course there will never be a time where you'll turn a Philadelphia, a Chicago, a Baltimore, a Compton, even the bad areas of a Miami or Brooklyn, wherever. There will never be a time where you eradicate violence. It just won't happen.
Mm-hmm.
However, let's not forget that they are building around Kensington and Lehigh brand new luxury apartments. Who would ever think that anybody would pay $1 single to live? And I don't care how nice you made the apartment. Who would ever think that? But investors know that some people will rationalize, I work at the hospital, I can hop on the L, go down here. And some people have that mindset, and it could pay off. I can get in early while it's cheap.
Mm-hmm. So because they're trying to change the whole neighborhood, but
exactly.
That's not what it's going to be.
I'm not saying that, but I remember this was years ago. I want to say around like 19th and Fairmount. I'll never forget. That was like
That's first Eastern State Penitentiary area.
Yeah, but a little further down.
Okay.
That was the first time that I can vividly remember, and it didn't have the term, or I wasn't aware of the term gentrification at that time. I don't know if that's one of those new coined terms. But I remember being vividly aware of them building like these nice new houses, and me thinking like, wow, these houses look very nice. But you go 1 block over to 19th and Brown, and it's the hood. And this was, I'm talking about, so we've been together 20 years. I'm going to say this was probably 22, 23 years ago.
I was naive to that shit when I first saw it, because I was programmed to think, oh, this is a new house, that's Section 8. Just like they built the Section 8 houses. They look new. They look like single homes with a little grass in the yard. So I initially thought, oh, these are just better Section 8 houses. And they're apartments at that, because I didn't see townhomes at first. It was like they stacking these apartments up. They look nice. Their finishes are great. They got granite and shit in them. But it was like, okay, these are just for the Section 8 people who work in, or like I was naive to that.
I kind of knew, or I don't know why I didn't even think that.
I was ignorant to that.
One, because they had garages. And if y'all know what I'm talking about, around 19th and Fairmount, like they're row homes, but like, on the side, it's instead of a basement, I guess it's a garage. So for me, I remember thinking, wow, these houses are really nice, but you go 1 block over and it's the hood. Like, who's ever going to want to live here? Let's fast forward. Now here we are 22, 23 years later. That whole area has been gentrified. Mm-hmm. And you still can go 2 blocks over in any direction and it's still the hood.
And buy crack.
But the gentrification has and continues. You can't live, I won't say you can't afford, people can afford what they want. But a lot of people that living in that area is outside of their price range. I'll never forget when you, 18 years ago, did a house that these people had bought. And I'm going to tell y'all, I seen this house he was working in. They bought a shell in North Philly. And I'm talking about one of them small North Philly blocks where cars park on one side and you can barely drive down.
From each wall in the living room, 15 feet. That's it, 15 feet. That's the size of a medium-sized bedroom. And that's like from row home wall to row home wall, party wall to party wall.
Now he's talking like a contractor. I'm telling you, as a person looking at this small block, the house was small, but not only that, it was a shell, meaning there was no kitchen floor. Like, there was no walls. There was no kitchen floor. Like, you go in the kitchen.
There was no second floor. I mean, there was a first floor because you could walk in, or you went in the kitchen, you had to go a ladder to go down the basement.
And you could see down in the basement. So I say all this to say, these people bought this house for $275,000 15, 18 years ago. The house is probably worth $600,000. This was like right off the art museum around the College Wall area, if you're familiar with Philadelphia. Which again, 25th and Girard is the hood. This was 2 blocks over, but they knew what they were doing then, and that's what I mean by it spread. So I think we've had these booms in Philadelphia in crime, and I think this is one of those booms because as the crime is continuing, the developers are also continuing.
But you see, they're picking up. That's my point. They're picking their spots because ain't shit get built in the Badlands yet. Ain't shit get built in certain areas of South Philly. Like there's certain areas of North Philly, Germantown. Like there's gonna be some. It's they look at them areas and be like, man, this shit is way too gone. Like you're not gonna be able to. You think about them blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks of row homes in North Philly and down the Badlands, like all them little tiny streets. Like they would have to knock shit down. And then to think it would have to be something like our neighborhood was, where a lot of the houses came down first for years and stayed down, then it got built up.
Well, see, this is my theory on that. I believe that the areas that are gentrified, there has to be when I say, I don't know if this is the right terminology, means of egress. So meaning
That's what a means of egress means.
Yes, a way out meaning close to a highway, close to public transportation, and there's buses everywhere. So when I say public transportation, I mean the L or the subway, close to a university or hospital, because those are major employment institutions. So I think that's why, like where we grew up, that area is not being gentrified. Look how far you got to go to get to a highway. There's no university nearby. There's no hospital nearby. So I think they're okay with pushing people into when you think about Germantown, there's no highway in Germantown.
The 76, but I understand
but
what you're saying.
That's near Wissahickon Avenue, which has always been a little bit better than like the middle of Germantown.
Like Wayne Avenue. I get what you're saying.
Exactly. You think about the Badlands. The areas near 95, Northern Liberties, they're doing that up. But the areas where there's no hospital, there's no university, that if you think about the areas that they've gentrified, it's even Kensington and Allegheny, it's near the L. And some people will sacrifice being able to hop on that L and get into Center City to go to Jefferson, to go to Pennsylvania Hospital, to go to University of Penn, where they go to school or where they work at. So I think that it's a method to the madness. They're allowing these things to happen for a reason.
Just getting off the topic a little bit. Why is Philly adapted to gang mentality of Chicago?
I think, and people may disagree, it's the music. Music is like that avenue that everything rides in, whether it's fashion, whether it's sexuality, and whether it's violence. Music is like the highway that drives the narrative.
It's the gateway drug.
Yeah, it drives the narrative.
In the 70s.
It drives the narrative of the culture. So whatever they talk about in music, that's what they start doing in the streets. They start dressing how they dress. You know, when Jay-Z said, I'm 30 plus, give me, like, he don't wear jerseys no more, I'm 30 plus, give me a pair of jeans and a button up, people stop wearing jerseys. So this music that's dictating the guns and the killing and all of that, that's where people are getting it from.
Clips and the glizzies with the extenders, like all that kind of lingo comes from Chicago. All that kind of drill music comes straight from, like, Chicago is the nexus of that, and Philadelphia people have adapted that, the youngins, the young kids, to I'm 44 years old and grew up in the streets, and there's never been gangs. You can go to different neighborhoods, people got blocks, but there's never been gangs. There's never been Bloods and Crips or Birch Street Bloods and shit like that. Like, never, ever, ever. So I don't understand how that shit's adapted from, like, how has Philadelphia picked that city and said we're going to emulate that
Well, but see, the thing
Because
is,
there's gangster music that come from L.A. There's gangster music that come from the South. There's gangster music that come from Florida. There's gangster music that come from Texas. All over the place. But it's like in Philadelphia, the attraction was Chicago and drill music and ops and smoking people and all this kind of shit. And it's right here in the city now.
see, I don't think it was just Philadelphia. I think New York, like that whole the lingo and stuff, I think has spread out. But one thing that you mentioned
They don't
about,
talk like that in New York.
I'm not in New York, so I don't know. One of the things that I think that you mentioned is important that kind of ties back into where I talked about the lack of foundation and the lack of family structure. We all know people join gangs to want that sense of belonging. Like, that's been the psychological reason since time immemorial. You feel like this is your clique, this is your crew, this is your family, you belong to something. So taking it back to having that lack of foundation, that sense of structure, and not to say they really know what they're getting into, because part of it too is just peer pressure, so they don't really know. It's not the same mentality as like back in the day when like the Bloods and the Crips and the Latin Kings and the Gangster Disciples, like they really were a tight-knit family. Nowadays, from what I hear and see, like in a few documentaries or like things that you might watch, you can have the Bloods, but these Bloods might not even like these Bloods. So it's very divisive now, but it's still that sense of wanting to be a part of something.
It is the sense of wanting to be a part of something, but it's weird because here there has to be one person, almost when you think about it, that says, let's start a gang. Let's be the Bloods. Let's be the Gorillas. Let's be the whoever, the whatever Crips or whatever Bloods. In Chicago and Los Angeles, this shit is culture. This is what their grandmothers were Bloods. Their fathers and uncles were Bloods. They were born Bloods. Their first onesie was red. Their first onesie was blue. I'm serious. It had flag shit on it. I've seen pictures of babies like with the red flag, a onesie on, with the blue flag onesie on. Like, that shit is real, like fresh out the womb.
That's why I say they don't really know what they're getting into.
Yeah, like that shit is, you inherit beef when you in no cities and that kind of culture is there. Here, that's not the case. We don't have that here. And it's people that go through shit in the streets, I know that. But it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing as being, this is who you hate. We don't fuck with them. This is who you hate. And these people will kill you if you go over there. And if they come over here, we're going to kill them. Like, that's inherited beef. That's in almost your DNA. Like, you right fresh out the womb, and the first picture you take is with the goddamn Crip flag on or the Blood flag on. Like, that shit is in, like, again, your grandmother was blooding. Your mom was blooding. Your father, your uncles, your brothers. That shit is in you. Here, it's like, certain neighborhoods, it's like, yo, you want to be the Bloods?
But I think you're right, and it starts at, a group of guys, young boys, 13, 14, sitting around like, let's call ourselves the Gorilla Bloods or something, whatever they call themselves. So then the next block over, they may not be enemies or anything, but maybe this, like where we grew up, 2 blocks over, you got one group of guys who are friends, and you got another group of guys, and they don't dislike each other, but it's just 2 different groups of friends. So then they call themselves a different name. And you're absolutely right. They have no idea what they're getting themselves into. And it's not the same mentality or the same tradition where, like, that's your life. Like, they can go home or go to a family member's house, and if the family claims something else, they might be like, when I'm with these guys, I'm part of this, but when I'm with these guys, I'm part of this.
Like, and it's different. Or if your cousin is an op, y'all can go to Thanksgiving together in Philly. Like, in Chicago and LA, they don't play that. Like, they kill their family over that shit. Like, it's not... It's deeper than what you think it is.
This is a wannabe generation, a wannabe mentality. And just like with females, how social media in music dictates the way these girls wear their hair, the way they do their makeup, the way they dress. For the men, for the boys, it's the same thing, but it's that, because you like you said, it's a lot of girls that's wanted for murder. So you got a lot of girls that get wrapped up in that too, whether it's because of their boyfriends or they're just cool with the guys,
I saw
or
a
they
girl
want that
wanted for
protection.
murder. She was 25 years old. She was wanted for double homicide, and she was 4'11", 100 pounds.
I saw that.
God damn.
I didn't see double homicide.
Yeah, she was. You hit her story and look, she was wanted for double homicide. 25 years old, and she was 4'11", 100 pounds. That shit's insane to me.
You shoot a gun, it'll knock you
and
back.
And again, when I speak about emulation of Chicago, I think it's a direct correlation. Chicago is notorious for O Block and 63rd Street. They beef with 64th Street. Well, in Philly, it's the same thing. In Southwest Philadelphia, 63rd Street hates 64th Street. And they do the same shit. And where does that come from? Directly from that city. But I grew up in Philadelphia, had friends in South Philly, Germantown, Southwest Philly, everywhere. And I've never known somebody to be from light to light. From corner to corner, from light to light.
Well,
like
that is not anything
here.
New in West Philly, because you have those major, like you think about 26th Street and 27th Street. Now, not to say it was beef like that where people would shoot each other and kill each other.
Then that's the beef I'm talking about. It's never in my history of being in the streets where it was beef from light to light. Like, across this light on the next corner, you on 64th Street, you get fucking shot. Over here, you on 63rd Street, you're on a different gang. That's crazy. That's crazy. And that shit comes from straight from Chicago. Like, these two same streets is going to have the same mentality and do the same shit, shoot and kill each other.
I know that West Philly has always been beef. I don't know specifically that level of detail, but I would hate to think.
Oh, I do the research. This stuff is on Philly CTV. Like, you can check it out.
I'm
like,
just saying, I would just hate to think that men and boys are that gullible that they're emulating something that is
they are
so
again it's
ridiculous.
pack mentality.
I'm not saying they're not. It's just crazy.
Like, again, it goes back to you saying not having guidance, not having people around you. You want to be a part of something. You're a young boy, your dad in jail, your mom on drugs, you out here by yourself. You want to attach on to something, so that's what you attach on to, but that's not what you are. You know what I'm saying? That's not what you are.
Ridiculous. That's sad. That's sad.
Is it necessary to carry a gun in a high violent neighborhood? Think about that before you answer, because I probably know you're going to say no.
You know, one of the things that you taught me a long time ago is that guns change options.
Eliminate.
So in that case, I don't think that, let me say this. I think you can live in a high violent neighborhood and not be a victim of a crime. You can live in a low violence neighborhood and be a victim of a crime. You carrying a gun does not necessarily mean that now you're protected and you won't, because unless you're pulling it first, unless you really know what you're doing.
But isn't that what it's about? It's about feeling secure and protected. So if having this piece of metal on your hip gives you a sense of security, that's all you need to make you feel comfortable.
But does that, just because you feel comfortable, does that mean something's not going to happen to you? You could be comfortably shot.
No, it doesn't mean that, or it doesn't mean you're not going to freeze when it happens, because it's not like you're going to be in that, you're not in that situation until you're in the situation when you got to pull the gun. But I'm just saying, for people who carry a gun, for myself, when I was younger, it was like, okay, I don't think that anything won't happen. And a lot of old heads will tell you, the second you start carrying a gun, people will try you more.
So let me ask this.
Men will try you more when they know you carry a gun, because they want to, in that street life, they want to know, are you about that life? Like, the rule of thumb is, if you pull your gun out, you better use it. And everybody knows you're carrying. They want to make you or try you to get you to pull your gun out to see if you're going to use it.
So I think, okay, so maybe I'm thinking about it on a different level. You said in that street life. So if you're in that street life, then probably, yeah, you need a gun. But if you're just talking about a regular person who lives in a high violent crime area.
I'm talking about street. I'm not talking about the 9-to-5 person. I'm talking about street people. Like, street,
well, yeah,
street
if you're
kids.
in the streets,
so
then
all street kids need guns. That's what I'm saying. Like,
street. Well, what's a street kid though?
If you're in a high violent neighborhood, you hang out, you dibble and dabble in illegal acts. You on the other side of the law.
Then I mean, unfortunately, I would probably say yes, because you do need to protect yourself. Like if you're in that life, then why wouldn't you want to protect yourself? Because unfortunately, you know what can and probably will happen. Now, so I mean, for that, yeah, I mean,
And what about the kids that aren't street dudes but live in the hood?
Right. So in that case, no, I don't think you need to carry a gun, because again, unless you're an expert, or not even an expert, you have some experience, you're practicing, you're going to the range. Just because you carry a gun, if you don't know how to use it, or if you're not prepared to react timely, when somebody run up on you and put the gun in your waist, just because you have a gun on you, you ain't about that life, and they robbing you, what are you going to do? You're going to either be robbed or shot.
That can happen to anybody. Is all the pushback I have. If you can be a marksman, you could be a person who goes to the range every day. If you get crept on, if you get caught sleeping, and that can happen to the guy who just left the range. So all I'm saying is, we have a nephew. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, his experience through high school, and not saying what high school he goes to, but he had an experience where a friend, or not a friend, but an associate or a person he knew that went to his school died every year he was there because of the violence in Philadelphia. So just what if, we didn't know for the last 6 months he was carrying a gun in his book bag every day. Nobody fucking knew. But to him, it wasn't like I want to hurt somebody or do something, but I'm so fucking scared that this might reach me one day. Like, I knew the last kid who died, and I got this, Aunt Tasha and Mom, if y'all find it, because I feel scared.
So just
I'm fearful.
To me,
and that leads to my next question is, what makes a teen carry a gun?
So
because I know the reasons, but you go ahead.
My thing is this: you're scared. You're carrying a gun in your book bag every day. So again, when somebody runs up on you, what are you going to do with this gun in your book bag? You're going to have to take your book bag off, unzip it, and do something to it? No, and not to say that that's not going to stop, like, you having a gun. Maybe it will give you a false sense of security, but you shouldn't feel secure, because it doesn't mean that something can't still happen. But wait,
screaming a little bit.
that doesn't mean that something can't still happen. And one of the things, too, like you were saying, that can happen to a marksman. If you're going to the range and you're practicing, you have some expert training, whether it's in martial arts or how to de-arm a person, I think even if somebody run up on you, you still potentially have a leg up. Because one thing we know about these young boys in the street, they don't know how to shoot. They have guns. They're carrying guns. They don't really know how to shoot.
Because
not
kids
saying,
are dying every day.
Well,
so
not
somebody knows how to shoot.
Well, not saying they're not pulling the trigger.
Because people getting shot.
Yeah, but you got people getting shot that weren't the intended targets either.
That's true, but a lot of people who are the targets get shot. I'm just saying, kids are hitting kids. That's all I'm saying. They ain't shooting up buildings. They
also are
people.
doing a lot of shooting. And, you know, they're shooting 27 times and somebody got hit once. Now, you might say, hey, that's all you needed was one. But if you really knew what you was doing, you would have only had to shoot once to really get that person, and not 27 times and bust out all the car windows on the block to shoot a person one time in the thumb because you just happened to catch them. So that's all I'm saying. But let me ask you something, because you mentioned about you carrying a gun. And just be as transparent as you want to. Were you carrying a gun to protect yourself, or were you carrying a gun to commit a crime?
In the beginning, I was carrying a gun out of fear, because a lot of shit. It was like when we was young, right? Like, that's like in the beginning of me getting in the street, kids used to fight. And it wasn't like, you know, I was Roy Jones or Mike Tyson or somebody, but I mean, you know, I knew how to fight, but not like Roy Jones or Mike Tyson. But so as we got older, fights stopped and people started carrying guns. So it was like you walking around and you with your peers, say 10 guys, and 6 of them got guns. And anytime you're with men, this is something I learned early. Anytime you're with men, there's a low level of violence in the air. Because anybody can say anything that offends anybody, where it's a mama joke, a dick joke, or whatever kind of game you play. But anytime you're with men like that, there's a low level of violence in the air that can happen at any time. So
do you think is that by nature or nurture?
It's by nature because it's all the testosterone, and
So
we're
you
all
think
men.
even like
It's
a
a
group?
pride and ego thing. I'm getting to that. It's a
Okay.
pride and ego thing. So there's a low level of violence just in the air in talking to 8, 9, 10 guys because
Wow.
somebody can say something that one man is offended by. You
Okay.
don't respect to you might be different than respect to him.
Okay.
You know, and that plays its part out a lot in jail as well as it does on the street. But what was I saying?
You been saying anytime men are around is a low level of
Yeah,
violence.
so I mean, when I was young and being around a group of guys and 6 of them got guns, it's like, okay, me and that dude was slapboxing the other day, or like I fought him before, or some shit. Now, like he carry a gun, so it's like, okay, I'm not getting a gun to protect myself, but this is what the not the thing is, but this is what it looks like you need to do to be okay. And I'm just gonna have this gun and not tell people and protect myself because they shooting around here at any time. In the summertime, shit get wild, and again, guys around me have guns. So it was initially out of fear and protect myself. It didn't, not till later on. It was like
Was
I'm
to
gonna
commit a
commit a
crime.
crime.
Okay. So you asked about why do kids carry guns, and I think you kind of alluded to that. Peer pressure, feeling like, oh, because everybody else got one and I need to have one to feel protected. Even if you really, let's say if you the kid and in your heart of hearts, you don't want to kill nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Either you don't want to kill nobody or you don't want to go to jail. You have some sense.
Which was myself. That's how I felt every day I had a gun. I remember one time I had a gun on Easter Sunday. And that's when I and this is rational thoughts that I remember in my life that was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, it's Easter. Like, I grew up on Easter with family and getting dressed and going out, and it was all fun in church. Now, I'm at a certain age where Easter Sunday, I got a gun on me. Like, what the fuck am I doing here?
Right. So I think for even those kids who may have those rational thoughts where they have a gun, but they really, in their heart of hearts, hope that they never have to use it. But they feel because of their environment. That's why I asked, was it nature versus nature? Is it nature versus nurture? Is it just a thing that's innately in men, or is it your surroundings? Because do you have a group of white men at the country club or black men at the country club who, didn't grow up in that same environment? Is it still that same mentality?
Same thing. It's you're a man. It's the same thing. You could be around it could be a group of white men in college. It could be a group of white men in executives at the office. One of them can say something that offends the other one to a point where it could be some shit going on. That's just men. And when you talk about street dudes, it's even more extreme. Because again, respect to me might not be what respect is to you. You might want or demand respect a different way than I might be laxed about, and I demand respect in a different way. That shit can clash sometimes.
Okay, that's good insight.
Easily with men. I think the reasons why teens carry guns is because of pride. Again, you with your friends and your ego and all that shit sets in. Nobody wants to be labeled a pussy. Nobody. Even when you're 12 years old, it's like the worst thing to be called is a pussy, or the worst thing for people to think you are is a bitch or a pussy. Like, it's the worst thing to be if you live in those areas.
And you know what's so sad though? It's like it doesn't make you either of those things because you don't want to kill a person. I would love, and I know this is like fairy tale land. I would love.
Let me finish the reasons.
Go ahead.
And ego, drugs will make you carry a gun. If you're in the street and you're dealing drugs, you want to feel safe. You don't want nobody to take your stuff from you. Protection from the stick-up boys, the get busy boys. So you gotta and fear. That's the last thing. A lot of people don't know that. Like, fear and being in survival mode. Like, there's anxiety in hoods. There's tension in hoods. Some people come outside every day like, because you watching, it's cars everywhere, it's shooting last night. Like, it's tension, it's anxiety in the hood. So the fear and being in survival mode can just make you want to protect yourself. And again, that person, when I was carrying a gun, it wasn't like I thought to myself that far ahead of, oh, I'm getting this piece off this Chinese dude, and I better start going to the range or going to Fairmount Park and shooting bottles so I can get my aim right. because I need to know what to do when some shit happens. You don't think that far when you're 15, when you're 14. You just think, all right, now I got the gun in my hand. I feel protected. Like, I'm not even thinking if some shit happened, will I freeze? Will I drop the gun? Will it be on safety? Like, you're not thinking any of that shit.
So out of all the things you said, protection, you know, if you're in the streets, it makes sense. I'm not saying I agree with it because I feel like you shouldn't be in the streets, but we know that's the fact of life. It makes sense because, yeah, you want to protect yourself from the get busy boys. You want to be able to not be robbed. Fear makes sense too. I wish that people that you know, young boys and girls made a different decision in that case. But what I wish, and again, I know this is fairy tale land, but for any kids, young boys, young girls who may watch this, or if for parents, aunts, uncles, whoever, if you show this to a kid, what I think would be so dope, what I would hope that if we had a son or a daughter in that situation, or one of our nephews or nieces, you know, if their group of friends had a gun and they didn't, you know, they had guns and they didn't, and they like looked at them or questioned them about it, if they would be able to respond like, no, like, I don't want to kill nobody. If somebody got a problem with me, we could rumble. We could fight.
But what if the person got a problem with you? They got a gun.
And I get that. But that's why I said, I know this is fairy tale land. Right. But instead of feeling like, oh, I got to have a gun because I don't want to be looked at as a punk, to feel that pride and that sense of respect to say, I don't want no gun because I don't want to be put in a position to kill nobody. Or I don't want to touch that. I ain't trying to go to jail. I wish that was the thought that kids had. Like, you know, like if somebody have a problem with me, we could rumble. One, I'm not trying to commit a crime, so let's take that out the equation. Like, I ain't going to rob nobody or nothing like that. But if I have beef with somebody, you know, we can handle it. But not to think, oh, well, I got to have a gun too because I don't want to be looked at as a punk. And I know in my heart, I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to kill nobody. I don't want to be killed. But you feel like, oh, I'm going to do this just to fit in. I would love if that would be the response that young Black boys and Black girls could say, like, nah, that ain't me. Now, for some people, maybe that is in them. But for the ones that isn't, if it ain't you, be okay with it not being you.
Right. She's right. You should be okay with that not being you. And that's fairy tale land. Because, like she said, because that's just not the way a kid in the street would think. Like,
most.
Think about an extreme situation. Say our nephew come running home one day, running in the house, and your sister say, man, he got into some shit, and some kids chased him home and were shooting at him. You got to understand what a 17-year-old would feel like the first time he's shot at. And it doesn't matter what y'all would say, or, you know, it's going to be okay, or we're going to keep you home for a week. If he's got to go back to that school or back to that area, you don't know the fear of being shot at.
Oh,
and the fact that he was, God forbid, you don't know what effect it has on him. So if he thought to himself, man, I'm fucking shaking. That would be a reason.
I would understand. I wouldn't agree, but I would understand. Of course,
and that's all I'm trying to paint is there's reasons why kids carry guns. You being a product of your environment, or some extreme shit like that happening where, fuck, I'm 17 years old. Nobody ever shot at me, and then the first time some shit like that happened, your fight or flight response kicks in. You could be fucking agoraphobe the rest of you. Like, I'm kind of coming outside no more. Like, you could be really, really, really traumatized from that shit.
So you think that you think that, you know, if you're a young kid and let's say you go to school in a really bad neighborhood, or let's say you're a young boy, because I don't want to say kid, because of course I don't think you're saying that a kid should carry a gun. No. But let's say you're a young man, you're 19, 20, you graduated high school, whatever, you know, living with your mom, whatever you're doing, you're doing the right thing, you're on the right track, but you live in a really bad neighborhood, you going back and forth to work every day, handling your business, you know, trying to save some money, maybe you going to college, taking some classes, but you live in a really bad neighborhood. You're not into no street stuff, but you see a lot of stuff going on around you. You think a person in that situation should carry a weapon, a gun? That's not just say a weapon, a gun.
I think whatever makes them feel secure. I mean, I wouldn't condone it, but whatever makes them feel, because I know what guns do. They eliminate options, and there may be a certain situation that you could possibly get out of that you might not even think about because you got your gun on you, and that might take a life. So I do acknowledge that. But anybody who is fearful of their life or something happening to a loved one, if you feel like you should carry a gun, then you should carry a gun. And that's just how I feel about that. Like, I understand the fear of being scared and being in the streets, so I know what that feeling feels like. I know you got to think about it.
But again, we're not talking about somebody being in the streets.
Right.
Somebody who ain't in that street life. They just happen to live in a neighborhood and they don't have the means to remove themselves from that situation.
Yeah,
but they ain't in the streets.
I think the smart thing to do would be to go ahead and get your paperwork right and get yourself a gun.
So this is my opinion. We talked about this not in relation to this, but we were just having this discussion about, like you mentioned, Philadelphia. Like, I know of so many people who have got their license to carry. And it is what it is. But be prepared. Because just having a gun, if you don't know how to use it, ain't going to do nothing for you. You got to be prepared. Do the smart thing and prepare yourself.
So you talking about going to the range and shit like that?
Yeah, and not just like going to the range. Like, you know, we went to the range and I didn't like it. I didn't like the situation where we went. It was uncomfortable. It didn't feel as professional. But like, really go to, like, the people was there. They had a guy that was like training them. He didn't work there. He like came with them, and he's like, "Come on, you can take a picture with the gun if you want." That made me feel so uncomfortable. It was an old lady, but go to a range and really invest in learning how to use your weapon. So that you can be prepared, because having a gun is one thing. When it's time to shoot it,
is another.
You gotta know how. You can knock your damn teeth out, hit yourself in the chin with the gun if you don't know how to shoot. You can go and shoot and it be so heavy you drop it. Like, be prepared if that's what you feel you want to do, is carry a gun.
Real quick, why do you think Philly gave out so many gun permits the last 2 years? Do you think it was based on COVID? Really fast.
Yes and no. I think the violence played a part in it, but it was like 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. Violence is increasing, so you're giving out all these guns.
But it's always been violence in Philadelphia since we were little kids, and it used to be worse. It used to be violence all the time, and we never. I can vouch for you. We never heard of people just all of a sudden getting gun permits out of nowhere.
So I don't know.
It used to be a stringent thing, I thought.
I that's what I was about to say. I don't know if it's a thing where we were just unaware.
Right.
So and people became more aware, like, oh, this is easier to do than we. So I don't know if people just assumed that you weren't allowed and it was difficult. I also don't know.
Pennsylvania is a Commonwealth state.
But I also don't know if recently there were like some changes to the law or something. I don't know.
Man, that's crazy.
But it has been a huge uptick.
Shout out to all the families in Philly who've been affected by gun violence. Condolences out if you lost any loved ones. I hope it gets better out there for young kids, and hopefully, it looks like it's on a decline and the murders is up, but hopefully, you got nowhere to go but better, I guess. But reaching 500 murders and more in a year. That's like they're gonna start talking about calling National Guards in your city for shit like that. Like that's insane. That's insane. Take a different note. What's your beef? I go first. Just get my shit off. And this just takes a turn and probably has something to do with us. But the emotion of love. This is my beef. I love being in love. I'm in love with her. I love her to death. I love being in love and the highs of being in love. And I know there may be some lows that come with it. But in accepting that, I also hate, I loathe the fact that being in love ties your emotion, theirs and yours, emotions together, where a person can say something to you, not necessarily negative, could be manipulative or just something that sticks in your craw, but they can say something to you that can make you feel like putty in their hand. And it's the greatest feeling in the world. And they also can say things to you that can make you, not like them or feel like shit, whatever the statement was that they said. But I just don't like that about love. I hate that about love. And I always wanted to say that. I've said it to myself before. Again, I love being in love. Never want to change that. I love her. I'm in love with her after 20 years, but I'm talking about specifically the emotion of love and how your emotions are tied to somebody that can be like this and also be like that in a sentence. And it's like, what the fuck? So that's my beef. What you got?
I'm gonna piggyback on what you said, since you kind of brought us and made it a little more personal. My beef is, and this can be related to a marriage, a love relationship, a friend, a family member. When people go through stuff, and I know everyone has their own means and methods of getting through stuff. I don't want to say get over, but getting through stuff. You have to feel your feels. Don't ignore your feelings. Don't suppress your feelings. Feel your feelings, but address it, talk it out, deal with it so you can get through it. When you go days without speaking to a person, that's my beef. Like, I don't like, because I be feeling like, how you all right when not talking to me or hugging me or kissing me this many days? Like, how are you okay with that? And if you can be okay with that for 3 days, 5 days, 27 days, then how much do you really need me? How much do you really need your friends and your family? Work through things, talk through things. And not only that, life is so unpredictable. Like, literally, I know people say that all the time. Life is so short. Life is so unpredictable. You never know what can happen. But we see people dropping and dying from day to day, like, unexpectedly. Like, not old people that are really sick. Like, you just see it more and more often. Maybe it comes with age, and that's just what happens. So, when you go through things with people, if you really love them, you really care about them, don't allow too much time to pass without resolving your issues, because you never know what tomorrow may hold, and you will be left with memories and regret. That's my beef.
It's your beef. That was a segment she created too. 3 grams. Tesla paid $137 million to a black man who said he was racially abused daily at Tesla.
Oh, wow.
What the fuck?
Wait.
Been doing to him?
$137 million?
Yes.
Wow.
What the fuck could they have been doing to him that warrants that much money of abuse racially daily? Like, if somebody was calling you nigga every day and you worked there for 2 years and they came in as good morning nigga.
Wow. So
Like,
he no longer works there?
I doubt it.
So, right, I mean, that's makes sense. So one thing you probably have to do, they probably figured out, is punitive damage, which is hard to determine because it's mental. So how much is your mental worth?
That's knowing, like, okay, we really were wrong. He really has proof. We can't.
But also you had to, and I don't know if this story, I didn't hear about it, but I'm just thinking, you also have to think, if he no longer works here and he left because of this, they factor in his salary. How much would he, let's say if he had a 20-year career here, how much would he have made over this amount of time? And because of the actions, and they obviously had to prove that it was true in order for this to happen. So how much would he have made over this, amount of time? Or what was his loss of wages due to this? Because of the mental anguish it caused him to quit. And it makes me think that and again, I would assume he had to bring this to like the attention of HR or something like this, because if you just had a coworker that was doing something to you, being rude or disrespectful, and you quit because of that, but you never told anybody, that's not the company's fault. So he had to have brought this to somebody's attention and they not do anything in order for them to agree to the liability and pay him out that much.
Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of HR and all that stuff. When I read that, I thought to myself, damn, like, is this a typo or some shit? But $137 million for being, and that's all the story said. Like, he was racially abused daily. I'm just thinking, what kind of racial abuse? I mean, don't get me wrong, racial abuse is bad, but $137 million is a lot.
And it also makes me think,
not saying that he doesn't deserve it, because abuse is abuse and trauma is trauma.
Right.
All I'm saying is, there's goddamn descendants of slaves that ain't got that much money.
Right, but it makes me think too, what were they doing, and how, not
Working
to say
for-
he did anything wrong, but how long did you let this go on? Like, because you got one instance, not even one day, you got one instance of doing something racially abusive towards me, and that, like, no, like, so how long did he let this go on? And who knows, maybe in the back of his mind he was just adding up, like, this case gonna be good, who knows, but damn, shout out to him.
This was extremely sad, and I didn't want to end with this, so I'm just going to do it now, but this was extremely sad to me, and it, like, broke my heart, because there's a video online of a cop that pulled a couple over in a car, and he gets out the car, and I don't want to show the video because it's long, but he gets out the car, walks up to the car, asks the man for his license and registration, gets his license and registration, tells him, I want you to step out of the car. Steps out of the car. He says, get the woman out of the car too. So the other cop comes over. They take the woman out of the car, and the lady is in a robe, and gets the guy out the car. Puts the lady in the back of the car at the trunk, and asks the guy, how long have you known her? And he says, I've known her about a few weeks, probably a month. And he said, okay, did you know she was my wife? And the guy said, no, I did not know that. And he said, okay, I'm going to need you to get back in the car, and I'm going to give you your license and stuff, and you can go. And you can hear the cop's voice, like, starting to crack, and like he's about to, he's tearing up, and he's like, you can go. And he was like, you're going to let me go? And he says, yeah, before I get angry, you can go. And the woman is just standing by the back of the car, and the guy gets his stuff out the car, and he gets in the driver's seat, and he says, listen, I'm sorry, but we're both victims of her lies. And he said, okay, I understand. Just go ahead and leave. And the guy pulls off, and the cop looks at his wife standing there, and he says, how could you do this to me? And he was like, I wasted 7 years on you. And he was like, you can call your mom and just tell her to pick you up from here. And the wife was like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah, I'm dead serious. And he got in the cop car, and you hear his partner say, are you okay, partner? And he was like, I will be. And he pulls the fuck off. I was like, oh,
first of all,
my God.
So sad. That's horrible. Why was she in a robe?
I don't know. They didn't say that, Todd. Every time I tell you a story, you always ask some detail that I would never know.
But I'm just thinking, like,
why would they even disclose? Why was she in a robe?
I mean, that's
make what you want out of it.
People on a road, and regardless of
that's what she got out of that story.
Why was she?
All that information. The fucking question was, why did she have on a robe? Like, you could have just assumed she was fucking or something. I don't know.
Wow, that's sad. Oh, poor guy.
Yep. And it was even way sadder when he got in the car and his partner was like, are you okay, partner? And he said, I will be. And he just pulled off. And the lady was standing there on the phone, I guess, calling whoever she had to call for a ride.
I wondered, like, they released it, but I wondered, did he get in trouble or something? Because you pulled this man over and it really wasn't official police work.
He must have saw his wife in the car and
probably was following him or something.
Yeah, something like that. Last gram.
Wait. I just have to say this. That's a horrible story. That's sad. But I thought you was going in a different direction. Like, it was going to be something like a fatal or something. Like,
I said sad. I didn't say fatal.
I know, but
sad is sad. It's sad. It's not sad.
It is.
Wasn't happy? It's not sad. It's
heartbreaking.
He could have
been a horrible husband. But I mean, listen to what you said. That sounds like a really.
If he was a horrible husband, does that mean you should cheat on him?
No.
Okay, then.
No, it doesn't. And I hate to see men cry. So just thinking about it, I haven't seen that video, but just thinking about it, that's.
So then don't say that. You didn't see the video. He was heartbroken, and that shit was extremely sad. For him to find out something like that. I mean, you find out something like that, that's cool. But he's with his partner. His partner had to console him.
And for a month.
And he got to go back to fucking work. He's a cop. He was on duty. Last gram. R. Kelly shit taken down from YouTube because he got convicted. But R. Kelly said he get ready to snitch on other celebrities that have been fucking young girls. And he got one A-list singer he want to tell.
Who do you think it is?
I don't know.
I mean that. So a
I don't know, but that's what he
A-list.
said. A-list singer, he gonna tell, and it's a lot of other celebrities that's banging young girls, and he know.
Well, so one of the things I always remember the conversation about, like him marrying Aaliyah, and then it was like, well, when Dame Dash started messing with Aaliyah, I think she was, I want to say like maybe 17, maybe she was 18. I don't want to say she was underage if she really wasn't. Um, but it's a shame that he's now, I don't want to say turned into a snitch, because if there's other pedophiles out there, then they should be revealed. But I think it's a fine line, not making any excuses for pedophiles at all. Like, not even a little bit. But if you're talking about a girl that was 17 and she was dating a guy that was 19 or 20 who was a singer, it's like,
It's not that many 19 A-list singers.
but he's probably talking about back in his day when he was doing his dirt. You think he know about people right now? He been out the loop.
I don't know.
I don't know either, but that's.
I don't know.
And what is his purpose? Because that's not going to reduce his time, or is it? Is he doing that for like a deal, or he just doing it to do it?
Well, he's convicted, so he might be doing it for leniency on the sentencing. But the trial is over. Conviction is set. That means what they charge you with, they think you guilty of.
I can say I have not been like keeping up and following when they had those series about the different victims and stuff. I seen like the first couple. I never finished them, and then I just I wasn't keeping up. But I didn't realize that there were boys that were brought into the equation.
Yeah, I said that on the last show. You gave a 15.
Yeah, oh yeah, you said that. Yeah,
some shit
like that's sad. That's horrible.
That's a wrap. A2TP podcast, episode 39. We ended on an R. Kelly note. The shit taken down off YouTube and going to jail. Sorry, Kells.
Are you really?
Not really.
Not really.
A2TP podcast, episode 39, wrapping up. Appreciate the shares, likes, comments. Get in the comment box too. I see there was a comment box up there. Nobody had no questions. What the fuck? Get in the comment box. YouTube, don't forget the website is coming. That's got merch on it. We're gonna start promoting that heavy. As soon as it's get up and running, we're gonna be super proud of it, and y'all gonna love it because it's got nice shit, colors, easy to navigate. Phase 2 almost done, so that's on its way.
But wait, drum roll. Episode 40, we're going live. Stay tuned.
Live.
Yes.
My story.
Yes, we're going live. This will be a 2-part series, so more details to come.
I don't know what the question's gonna be neither. I hope she do her homework. I hope she asks poignant questions where she can get poignant answers. If she asks one word questions, she get 1-word answers. So hope she do her homework and be a good interviewer. I'm gonna be a great interviewee.
First of all, y'all know who my godmother is. The Oprah Winfrey.
I thought you were about to say Robin Roberts or some shit.
No. But yeah, stay tuned for more details.
A2TP podcast, episode 39, wrapping up. If you fuck with us, you fuck with us. If you don't, you should. Peace.